Grant Cameron here, the Cameron Files. I'm back with my good friend Randy Kitchur. And the last item we're going to talk about today, we probably will have other interviews, but the last one we're going to talk about today is a common friend we both have is Mr. Clifford Stone. Can you talk a little bit about how you met him and why he would be significant?
So Clifford, in my life, he's the one who provided corroboration. 20-something years later of my, 25 years later maybe, of my sighting, where he got everything absolutely perfect. There was not a detail that he missed. When he, and I'm not going to call it remote viewing because he doesn't want to be called that, but he has some psychic abilities that were amped up as a result of his connection to extraterrestrials in the U.S. military. So I got in touch with him through Lee McDonald, who, when this thing was going on with CSIS, call him up, and I called him up, and we talked many hours on the phone. He would talk to anyone. He's not a person that very, very common, down to earth person. No pretentiousness about him at all. But he has these amazing abilities. And he did it for Lee McDonald in terms of being able to see the 7 stars above him before he could see it, before he could see the moon behind him, before he could see the jet contrail under the moon. So he could probably do this for you, Grant. I would recommend when you go to Roswell next week, ask him about your experiences. Now, according to Leslie Kane, who was very, well known in the UFO community because of her connection to John Podesta and various news conferences and books that she's written, and the New York Times article that's recently come out. She was very closely connected to Clifford as well too, and she would go to his place, and she actually took at one point she said she took an electromagnetic meter and was measuring the electromagnetic levels in his house, and her concern at that time was that someone was trying to induce a cancer in him because there were very high levels of electromagnetism in his house. But she would, try to get as much information as she could. She's a very dogged, determined person, and she was way out there before anyone was out there, visiting him and getting information. And so she was telling me once when we had a conversation, she had asked Clifford to do the same thing that I showed her that he did with regard to my sighting and Lee McDonald's. And so she described an instance where she was in her kitchen and she was asking him to describe her kitchen cabinet. I guess they were unique or something special about them, and he was able to do it exactly like that, and it was like instant. But she tells me that it's not an on-demand ability of his. It's something that maybe you have to build up strength to do, or it just whenever the moment is right you can do, but you just can't. He just can't do it all the time. Now I did hear him in an interview. He talked about that there are 6 individuals in the U.S. military like him, so it's not just him. I think it was maybe it was Lee McDonald that made the suggestion that they would need him, and why no harm has come to him, even though he's given so many disclosures, is because he's so unique and special. In the event of an electromagnetic pulse, say for example there was a nuclear attack at a certain level of the atmosphere that wipes out all electronics all across North America, he would be one of the people that would be able to telepathically communicate with other individuals that had his ability to get communication back to whatever the level of government was at that time. So he's a very valuable person to them. So I don't see that anything was going to harm. And also, he once described an instance. I think he's talked about this publicly as well, but he talked about to Lee McDonald, where he has this being called Corona that he's claimed has been in contact with him for his entire life. And he said, well, it's a green extraterrestrial. He's not going to hide the fact that it's green, but supposedly this is his mentor, his guardian, someone who protects Clifford throughout his life. And one instance was where Clifford was, I guess he was in his bedroom at night, and another being, not this Corona, but another being materializes into his room. And the being says to him, don't you know, we could kill you right now. And then this voice, like the voice of God, says, no harm shall come to this man. And the being just dematerialized, vaporized. So Clifford, I know, is being divinely protected for his disclosures, for whatever forces are out there, the good forces that are out there. So he's one of the people I thank the most in my life that I've been in contact with because of him being able to tell me, well, I don't have any, information, but he gives me the information beyond what I could have ever achieved from any other source on this planet. And he's probably the only person that could do that. So you're very fortunate that you're able to talk to him next week. And please tell him I love him.
Yeah. So you spent how many conversations did you have with him over
I
the
would
years?
say probably maybe 2 dozen.
Yeah.
Some of them would be like he was extremely generous, like 2 hours of his time. Like who can take 2 hours of their time just to talk to a total stranger? But he would do that.
Yeah. He's very accommodating. Yeah. I will ask him when I go. I'll ask him and remind him of you. And I'm going there, and apparently John Greenwald is looking for his files. Like I asked him what he was going to do with his files because he keeps saying he's not very well, and he really didn't have any plans. So John
Going to archive them for him.
archived them. Like they wanted me to go before, and I said, well, if John gets them, it saves me having to archive them. John's going to have them; I can access them anyway. So I'm going to go and I'm going to do maybe a day of filming to try to film as much, because apparently he said there's been no documentaries done on him or anything, just to try to record it, because he claims his health is not that good.
Oh, and the story about the Holloman Air Force Base, I knew about that long ago.
Okay, so tell me your version, because that's an important story to me.
Okay, what had happened? There was I think the woman's name was Sunday, who's actually in the office. He had the Holloman Air Force Base film, and he offered to show it to a lot of people. One of them, Kevin Randall, I think Don Schmidt, and some other people. But he actually showed him Kevin Randall. It was in his trunk, and he showed him the film. And Kevin Randall didn't want to see it, and was been on this crusade against Clifford Stone ever since that. He totally resents that.
Yeah.
But Clifford Stone had the film. Paula Harris saw the canister. He had brought the film back to his workplace, and somebody just walked in there and walked out with the film. But he had the Holloman Air Force film at one time.
And that was at the '97 Roswell conference, I think.
That's
why they were all there, I believe, because it was the 50th anniversary.
Yeah, because you're not going to have all these researchers and they're randomly. It would have to be specific.
And who is this woman you mentioned at the beginning?
Sunday, she was, I believe she was the person that was that Clifford knew that was in the office at the time.
What do you mean in the office?
Well, in where he worked, where he had the canister.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she said she was the one who actually was there when somebody actually walked in. You can mention.
Oh yeah. When they came to recover it.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I remember him telling me that story. Yeah, that's a fascinating story. And unfortunately, it is on film, but for whatever they lost, like they went to Italy. That she is sent the film, and that's when Maurizio Baiada saw it on the film, and he said, "You didn't ask to see it because he saw the." So apparently they got it, but I don't know what happened to the film. I haven't got a hold of Beata yet, or to confirm what happened to the film. Interesting story.
I've also got like a lot of emails privately from Lee McDonald, and one that's really disturbing is where they emailed Jeff Rents in the middle of the night. They wanted to put him on Coast Clifford because he had people from the U.S. government that he was actually holding down on the floor with a weapon because they had come to tell him, you're going to not do any more of this disclosure stuff. And so, I think I've sent that to you as well too. But it's very dramatic. But it ended amicably.
Yeah.
Anyway, so. But at various times they do come and say, Clifford, we want to rein you because I think you're a little bit too much of a loose cannon. But it always kind of works out. There's an understanding between, like a gentleman's agreement, that you're not revealing anything that he's doing. I guess because of his son. Like he believes that his son was genuinely killed as a result of his disclosure, because they had threatened him just before that, and then his son ends up in a hit and run in the Roswell Mall, and he was actually the first responder. So this had a very traumatic effect on him, because here it is, you're disclosing information, the government tells you not to disclose this information, then a week or so later, your son is run over in the parking lot of Roswell Mall, and you're the first attending person on that.
Wow.
And so apparently he visits his son's grave every day.
Is that right?
That's what he.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very nice guy. honored to.
And that's why he
spend some
won't
time.
ever leave Roswell, because he attends his son's grave every day.
Yeah.